My name's Emily Martin, and I'm taking you behind the scenes to talk to equine artists from around the world. This is Artist Unlocked. Alright everybody, welcome back. We are on episode 6 of Artist Unlocked. Happy Breyerfest weekend, everyone. If you're going to Breyerfest, I hope you have an amazing time and are still able to enjoy the experience despite it being online this year. I think Breyer's done a really good job with it though, so I think regardless it's going to be a fun weekend. And if you're not going, no worries. You can still oogle at all the models from afar. And I also know a lot of people and artists are running sales that don't require you to have a Breyerfest ticket to participate in, so I think that's a really cool aspect of this year. I know in years past, if I'm not going to Breyerfest, I tend to just treat myself to a little retail therapy. So regardless, I hope you have a great weekend. This week's episode features Morgen Kilbourn of Kilbourn Studios. If you don't know who Morgen is, she is a longtime hobbyist. She's considered, at least in my opinion, a veteran of the hobby. She creates amazing sculpture work. I was super excited to have the opportunity to sit down with Morgen and talk to her about what she does best. You guys know the drill. If you aren't subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It is the main platform for these episodes, so I'm really trying to grow a platform on there. But if you want to listen to the episode as well, you can go ahead and check out them on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I think that's all I have to say for now, so let's get into the episode. For the uninitiated, for the 1% of people out here who don't know who you are, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, hi, I'm Morgen Kilbourn. Actually, I'm technically now Morgen Kilbourn Rosamundo, but I go by my business name, Morgen Kilbourn. I've been sculpting for the hobby for, I think, over 20 years now. I do artist resins, I do commercial work, I've done some china, some bronze, some other things, and a couple Breyers.
Yeah, it's quite a list of things. Something I aspire to be maybe one day, but... Tell me just about your hobby journey overall. How did you get into it? How did you start customizing and sculpting and things like that?
That one's kind of fun. So I started collecting in the 80s. And actually probably got my first Breyer in the late 70s. So to give you an idea of my age, but it was a proud Arab stallion, and I was like, this is stiff and icky, and I wasn't into it at all. My father worked with toy companies, and so I got to hang out with him at his toy companies, and he was a commercial sculptor. And they had other companies' stuff, and they had a couple Breyers there. And I remember being like, oh, these are a little more interesting than this, this one I have. And I would play with them a little, but still I had I was into the Barbie horses, the combing and the mane. That's how young I was. And they didn't have bath time jasmine, so I couldn't comb any manes. And so it was a couple of years. And then I started getting into the realistic horses. And overnight, my friend in high school, in 4th or 5th grade, she brought in a Just About Horses magazine. That was when they were the little dinky ones. Yeah. And she brought in those, and I'm like, can I take this home? Read it cover to cover. Probably wrote down a whole bunch of pen pal names in the back, and send a self-addressed stamped envelope, and you can get this catalog and that, and learn about photo shows. I was hooked. Instantly I was photographing everything, and couldn't wait to get more Breyers. And I was mowing lawns so I could buy a Breyer. 2 lawns was enough to buy a Breyer. And we would get on the bus and save up our money and get on the bus and meet downtown and ooh and ah at the hobby shop and bring home the newest Breyer and the newest catalog. And I was so into it for 10 years. I was really, really diehard. And when I discovered the sculpting and customizing part, I think was when the black and white private magazines came out. They weren't done by Breyer, but Model Horse Gazette and some of those. Yeah. And I saw these pictures, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are amazing. So overnight I started trying to paint my own and everything. And my mom thought I had a problem. She came home and I had a briar and I was boiling it on the stove, and she thought I had like a psychological disorder where I would like destroy dolls out of anger. And she was like, just kind of watched me. But then I like, recreated this whole new thing. I bent it. And so I took like a standing foal and I made it trotting, and it looked terrible. But, I thought it was cool. Somewhere. And yeah, I thought it was cool. And I had a lot of fun with that. And it kind of just, it didn't really go anywhere too far at that point. I really enjoyed the photo showing. I really enjoyed the performance part of the photo showing and the scenes. And then I got some real horses, and I kind of got out of it. And I went to college, and then I was, the internet came along, and I'm a company I'm working for, and we have good internet. And my friend sends me a link. She's like, remember when we used to collect those briars? Look what they're making now. And she shows me a whole bunch of artist resins. And I'm like, well, I want to make that. No, I know I can make that. And literally I like read up on like what they were doing with epoxy sculpt. And I was like, this is so much more fun. Because I had been trying to sculpt in pottery clay. I said my father worked in a commercial company. He would work on these projects and do this molding, and it was such torture the way they used to mold stuff. It was really, really hard in the 80s to mold things, and it was really smelly, really bad stuff. Yeah. And it didn't seem fun. So I didn't really want to try sculpting my own until I came across epoxy sculpt. And I bought 60 pounds of it, and like I had like a month worth of time off built up. That they're like, you have to use your sick days and your time off all at once. So I did, and I took a month off, and I did my first sculpture, and then people were like, you should cast it, and I totally went with it just because, it wasn't like the perfect thing. I was just like, this is fun, and I really liked it. Yeah, it was very cool.
Oh, that's so cool. What a cool story. I think one of the things that I really appreciate is like, when I was younger, even like going to the store to get a briar when you were younger is just like, it's like a candy store. And now that everything is like so online, I feel like you miss like that experience of like getting to just go and pick it out. Like it was such a thing.
Yeah.
Just like ship it to your door. And
I don't know if they still do this anymore, but when they were loose in the box before they had the clip tie, railroad ties or whatever they would like just line them up on a shelf, and you would go to the store and you would be like, there's the new one. Oh.
It's such
fun.
Nostalgia. But yeah, and I think you did like a lot of what a lot of people end up doing is like you go through that college phase or like the real horses take over, and so you kind of go back and forth between like real life, and because I feel like, I mean, I graduate in the fall, and it's really challenging to like find time between like starting my life, so to speak, and like for the hobby, and it makes me sad. But it's cool that like you came back to it and then dove in so quickly like that. It's inspiring.
It's really weird how sometimes like you see your thing and you're like, oh, I love this. Yep, no, this is my thing. I'm gonna go do this, and I know it. Yeah. I wish that for everybody.
Yeah, it's really cool to find like what you're meant to do. I know you said like, and I don't want this to even be a place like where we focus on the negativity. But even if you want to just tell me like what your favorite parts about the hobby are, like I'm all ears.
Oh, did you ask like what my least and most favorite were?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can go right back to my story. My least favorite part of the hobby is probably how regimented we are about it has to be this. So my first horse that I sculpted, I was just having a blast, having a good time. There were some people who took me a lot more seriously than I took myself, and I had a great job. I really did. And I was making money. I didn't love it, but I mean, I was making good money. Wasn't doing this to make money off of anybody. I was like, well, if this thing can pay for itself, that's cool. And people were like breaking it down, and they were like, oh, it should never be made. And it used to be a lot more regimented and very absolute. And it's like, if it's going to be an artist resin out there, it has got to win. Yeah. And my favorite part of the hobby now is that a lot of that is like gone away, like that narrow-minded, focus and the negativity on like, it has to be this, a lot of that's going away, and I really like that. And I love that we can do fantasy animals now, and I love that different styles are being embraced, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah, it's
even though I'm like out there and encouraging people like focus on anatomy, learn anatomy. I always tell people it's this. Picasso actually was a realist when he started. And if you look at his earliest work, you would not recognize it. It's very realistic looking.
Wow.
But then he went off and did some creative stuff, and that worked for him. But it is good to know the basics.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think it's good to know anatomy and how things work. And if you're interested in that, like dive as deep as you want. But I think like you're right, it does come a point where you have to like not take yourself so intensely seriously, because horses are so complex, and if you like sit there and like try and get every little jot and tittle right, like I feel like it takes some of the fun out of it and the creativity out of it. Okay, so do you have like favorite memories or like best moments or experiences so far in the hobby?
Oh gosh, I should have thought more about this one. I have so many. I mean, Breyerfests are amazing experiences. Some of my earliest Breyerfests were some of my favorite ones, where I would like tried selling out of the room, or I don't know, like trying to come up with ways to like give out raffle tickets with the Kentucky, Gaming Commission breathing down my neck, and it's like, okay, I want to hold the fun raffle, but apparently that's illegal, and like even just giving away tickets, I have to be really clear. So those are like some really funny times, but just like meeting all the people and like coming up with things that I can do. I guess like I really have a hard time, because like I'm torn between some of the stuff that people have come up with in contests that just blow my mind, and just getting to know so many touching stories is like, some of my more favorite things.
Yeah, the community aspect of it is really cool. Yeah. Do you have like...
I should have thought more. I wish I had like one story to pull out, but
I mean, we can come back to it if you come up with
one.
later.
Yeah, if I think of something, I'll let you know. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's a big question.
Yeah.
Have you always worked in like a designated studio area, or like tell me about your journey about your workspace in general?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Okay. So when I took that month off, I worked on my kitchen table in an apartment I had. I actually had a 2-bedroom apartment, but I was doing web design on the side for a career. So I had like an office that was computer based, and I thought that was the road I was going to go down. I was starting to explore like 3D animation stuff, and I actually was looking into interning. And that was kind of my area of interest I thought I was going to go down. And then just overhauled that completely and was like, never mind, the computer can sit in my bedroom, and I'm going to take my bedroom and take it apart and just like turn it into a dusty workspace. Because once I was really into the drumming. I just loved it was really cathartic to sit there and just, explosion of dust everywhere. And I really had, I made a huge mess right off the bat. So, and since then, I've lived in like, I'm places where I slept on the couch or futon or something, so I've had to like have some pretty awkward sleeping areas. But after that, I moved to a 1-bedroom apartment, and it's still, the bedroom became a studio, and I made the bed out in the living room, and it's a little awkward for guests, and I didn't have a lot of dinner parties after that, but it's okay because I had the art. That's awesome. When we bought this house, we were supposed to convert the garage into my studio and the barn into my husband's workspace, but he hasn't moved into the barn yet, and I haven't moved into the garage, and so I'm still working out of the bedroom. So when we have guests, they still have to sleep on the couch.
That's awesome, though.
You don't need to have a perfect space. A lot of artists I know have like worked out of little woodshed type thing or whatever, sheds, garden sheds, and on tables in the garage or just a kitchen table. A lot of people just work at their kitchen table.
Yeah, that's where I started, and I kind of like, I have to be careful doing it in my room because like the fumes and stuff, like I have to be careful like where I sleep and like what I allow in here. But I dream of the day when I have an extra room just to kind of put everything in. But it's funny that you mentioned earlier your mom like thinking you had some kind of disorder, because it's like when I go out to Dremel, I'll go like on my driveway and like people will be walking by on their like normal walk, and then there's me with my Dremel and like little plastic horse pieces on the side. I look insane, but
cutting legs off and stuff. That's gotta look
I can't imagine what my neighbors think of me, but
but good for you I mean, I'm always kind of pushing like the health part of it, because I mean, I look back at all I did and I'm like, oh gosh, especially now, I'm like, I'd hate to think of like how much epoxy dust might I possibly like breathed in, because I just wasn't taking enough precautions, and, and then I get this stuff all over the ground, and then I walk around with it, and I'm like, oh wow, so not do as I say, not as I do. So use safety first, guys.
It's important. Yeah, I feel like I didn't used to do things either. Like I kind of was more carefree about it, and then more people I think started getting more like safety conscious, and I was like, maybe I should like get a mask. And I will say this much, for the longest time, and I mean, like, I grew up around these horrible fumes that were in the toy factory, in the basement, and the I don't know if you've ever been around fiberglass, but that is like just give you an instant headache kind of fume, and that was like a constant smell at my dad's workshops. He worked at Coleco, and it was like down in the basement, and it was just, there was no ventilation, and the guys all just worked together, and I can remember that being like an environment where I hated that smell. But it's funny, I was using some different types of like solvents and stuff, and also I was trying to use like primer, and I would spray primer into a jar and then paint that on to spots, so I was like touch up areas. And that seems like a great idea. If you ever do that, do it outside, because I can't, no, this is really bad, I can't spray primer now without getting a bloody nose. I have to wear, I have I also have sinus issues from like places that we've lived being not as healthy as they could be. So, I mean, but now I pay the price, and I've heard stories from some people that they have like, asthma as a result of like spraying too much primer, too much fixative spray and stuff, and not being careful about breathing it. So like with all the pasteling, I'm like, oh gosh, you really need to be careful. Well, the primer especially is like particularly nasty stuff. Like, it's real stinky.
I try and let everything air outside and stuff. I have that option now.
And I know I've also heard of people getting like allergies to epoxy if you like, because I mix it now with gloves. Also, I feel like sculpting with gloves is so difficult, but like I'll mix it with the gloves and then let it kind of sit.
Good for you.
That's only a recent thing.
I make everyone do this, and I don't do it myself, and I'm so afraid that I'm gonna, but I can't even bear to wear the gloves. I do sometimes. I have the same gloves, and I'll keep using them, but then my problem is I keep using them over and over, and then they get like bits of pre-mixed stuff in there, and I don't have smooth. I should just buy a lot of gloves. Not easy to do right now.
I went to buy like the little vapor packs for like the respirator that I use, and like you can't buy them anywhere right now because of like the coronavirus stuff. They're like keeping them for, which makes sense. They need it more than I do, but
now I've been more careful than ever with like using my gloves and masks. Okay, well that's good to know.
What mediums do you primarily work in, like when it comes to your work?
So I kind of went full circle. So when I was, before I started doing model horses sculptures, I was trying to do pottery horse sculptures. Wow. And it was really disappointing. Like in high school, I did this like laying down horse, and it was so awesome. I was so happy. I was like, and it exploded into a million pieces in the kiln. like, okay, that's really disappointing. And, so I stopped working on it. And then college, I tried again. I tried sculpting some other things, and it just gargoyles or something. And I took, like, somebody gave me like their slot in a class for free, and it was kind of cool. It wasn't accredited. It was just, anyways, but I tried doing some, and that exploded. So I'm like, well, this pottery stuff, it's not for me. And so, like I said, then I did the epoxy sculpt, and I did that for like 10 years. And I didn't really try anything else. And then when I went to, I moved to North Carolina, and we had an outdoor situation. I was like, I guess maybe I could try casting now, especially since, so I had gotten some cheap clay, like this kind of clay you buy in a package at the Michael's and craft store. Yeah, I bought a bunch of it and sculpted. Can you see that guy back there? I sculpted him, and I was so excited. Then I sculpted Kipling to go with him. And I sculpted quite a few out of soft clay, and I was really, really into super soft clay. Breyer asked me to do Wyatt, and I decided, because I'm kind of weird, I like to really challenge myself. So I'm like, I really want this to have like hard, very firm feeling shapes. I don't want it to be all squishy. So like Max and Kipling have like really textured, organic feeling, squishy kind of skin. And I really wanted this smooth, chiseled, precise feeling of like a stock horse that's like fully fitness, a gaming horse. And so I went to a hard clay, which is really hard to sculpt in. So I just completely swapped textures. And then I kind of like went around trying like True Northish sculpt in a super soft clay. Bobby Joe is sculpted in, I went back to using, what's that stuff called? Sculpey. For the first time. Yeah, I decided I'm going to try Sculpey now. So I just like kind of went all over the place trying, like, each new horse I was trying in a different media to kind of, and it changed. It changed the feeling of the horse a little bit for me. But I mean, your basic style is still always there. And now I'm back into trying Magisculpt instead of Epoxy Sculpt, which I kind of like a little bit better. I like the water-based aspect of it. So
I just bought some, actually. I've heard it's great for like the hair texture. I've heard different things from different people about Magic Sculpt. Like some people love it for like everything, and other people love it for just specific parts. But I'm interested to try it.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain stuff that I like Epoxy Sculpt better for. It kind of has a feeling of, like, I think like of Epoxy Sculpt when I think of a horse that has like kind of their summer coat on, and they're like a heavier horse, but they have like little, capillary veins right up close and stuff. I like that sort of feeling for it, but and I like a certain type of Epoxy Sculpt, the red for the manes and tails. I tried the red for that. I've been telling people for years, like, use the red for the manes and tails, and for all I know, the red's completely changed consistency, but for me that works.
Do you have like a favorite, like, one that you've used over the years, or is it just kind of like what's best for the sculpture?
I've really enjoyed using Magisculpt lately. Can't really talk about too much what I've made lately with it, but I've really enjoyed using it. And I'm kind of like ironing out some of the details of like smoothing with it. I still, honestly, for some things, I still love the pottery clay. I went back to that and started doing these large reliefs. I'll send you pictures. But they're big, and they did crack, but I kind of ran with the cracks and kind of incorporated that into part of the design.
Oh, cool.
But that's like the fastest for me to sculpt in. So, I mean, if I could sculpt a whole large horse and I didn't have to worry about it cracking or breaking or bending or warping or falling apart, I could do probably the fastest in pottery clay. But, real life comes in. I'd still probably have to use like all sculptors have been using the oil-based clay
Yeah.
or something of that size. But for smaller, go round and around about it.
Yeah. That's cool. I've never tried the pottery clay before.
Yeah, they actually make a version that you can cast. So I hate casting. That was the other thing. And people would always ask me questions about casting, and I'm like, don't ask me. I ask other people questions about casting. I went and stayed with Kitty Cantrell for a week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To learn how she does her casting, and I love that method. But overall, no, I hate it.
It's scary.
I have some stories.
Go ahead. Yeah. Do you have any that you want to share?
No, I can't. I guess I'm like trying to think of what I can say about without revealing too much. But some of my commercial work has been like down to the wire, and then the mold failed.
Oh.
And then, you know, my husband comes home and I'm holding, you know, my first waist casting, and it's got no legs. And I'm like, it's okay, honey. I can remake the legs.
Oh.
I know how to sculpt legs. I can sculpt legs in a couple of days.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine.
Terrible. You know? Yeah, I've had, because it's expensive too, and people don't generally understand that. 3D sculpting looks like a lot of fun. There's the print side of things, but sometimes you can just send companies just 3D file, and that's cool.
Yeah, so that's something new that's like kind of popped up. I know Raven's kind of taken a lot of like the charge with that.
Yeah, I think Raven and Maggie. I mean, I know that like that Maggie's definitely like done some amazing things with like that fast order, and Kelly Seeley is really she does it, I think, professionally. So that's cool to see those guys. I turn to them for questions about it with my 3D scans. I kind of want to do it in hand as much as possible for as long as possible, because the older you get shaky, your eyesight goes. I want to do it as long as possible in hand.
Yeah, it's cool to have the tactile aspect of it. I think that's what makes it fun.
It really does, yeah.
Do you have any favorite like tools that you like to use for either sculpting or just in general?
This is my Dremel stylus.
Oh my gosh.
They don't make it anymore. If anybody knows where I can buy more, please let me know.
That's amazing.
Because when that one wears out, I'm going to cry a lot. I really love that thing. So,
do you use it just like for all your Dremel work, or is it just like for the real fine-tuned stuff?
It's for like fine-tuned stuff. So, like recently I had to do some hair that I wasn't planning on doing, and I kind of had to go back in and I found a bit that worked with it, and I was like, yeah, it's just, it has a lot less chatter. I have the handheld, you see that? I have this, you know, I don't like it as much. It's got the bendy flexi shaft cord. But that's an option. But the stylus has like enough strength that I can kind of carve hard into things. But it doesn't vibrate so much that your hand like feels like numb afterwards. And the stylus is like really for like engraving teeny tiny fine stuff, but like I don't think I could push hard enough to hardly like hollow out a nose.
Wow.
Or carve out a hoof. I'm not sure, you know, it just it doesn't have enough pushback.
Yeah, so. It's not meant for that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have a favorite scale that you like to work in, or a least favorite?
Yeah, I thought about that. Because the truth be told, I actually like working large. Like, I like working like quarter life size. I'll send you a picture of me with like a horse head that's like, the head itself is like this big.
Wow.
And I had so much fun working in that scale, but traditional and kind of on the larger side of traditional. I like where I can put in as much detail as I possibly can.
Yeah, so that's why you like to work big.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the smaller scales are fun, but I think the smallest I've ever sculpted was I'm like trying to think like who I sculpted by hand. The Flitwick.
Yeah, that's cool because I feel like that's different than what a lot of people are doing. Yeah, what a lot of people are doing nowadays because there's such a like a micro craze right now, and I don't know how
Yeah.
people sculpt that. Like, how on earth can you pack that much detail into something so tiny? It's amazing to me. Yeah.
It's hard. I've done some micros, and like when I got the printouts and they had lines in them for like, you know, like my micro Duke, the first printout I got, his like the front of his leg was kind of missing a little bit, you know, it was too narrow and it like kind of cut off or disappeared. So I'm like, oh yeah, just sculpt it larger. You know, like, so basically like my whisker bump material that I use, you know, to like put little teeny whisker bumps on, I kind of like painted it down the front of the leg, and I'm like, hopefully that'll blend in. And you know, I did. I got it blended in, but I'm like, wow, that you know, like literally like the tiny droplet of fluid is all that you're using and it's exhausting. I've honestly like tried to I could show you now. You're curious about the scales, the ones that I'm releasing. So okay, so I'm excited about this new print, and
there he
this is a 3D scan of, I don't know if you can like get an idea with the size of my hand.
Yeah, he's small.
Okay. Yeah. I tried going even larger with him, the two like side by side in my hand.
Yeah.
In pewter, and unfortunately I was like kind of messing around with it. The pewter's too heavy. So I really like it when people have enough painting surface to paint, you know, the Appaloosa and stuff. I'm all about the microclays, but I want them to have enough detail to be able to paint them well too, you know, and not like, you know, I kind of like that happy medium, and for me to be able to clean them and prep them, and I have hired out to have them cleaned. Anyways, he was too heavy in that big pewter size, so we tried tiny pewter size too. Okay, and that wasn't working out so well either. You see like how can you see that little foot the leg got broken off because it was so tiny.
Missing a foot.
And so this was like the happy medium size that we tried in between. But still, it's so hard when you get to a certain size to even make like things that don't like just blow on them and they break.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
Go ahead.
I know like a lot of people are having like issues like with the micros because they're so tiny. Like you have to be careful with them. Even when they're made really strong, they're still tiny. And yeah, that's definitely something you have to keep in mind.
Yeah, so that's why I'm loving the 3D prints that cure. So Raven is doing them for me, and she cures them, which is different. I had some prints made by other companies and they weren't baked and cured, and they're not as strong. So I kind of wasn't sure what to do about those. And like, you know, I got a jumper going next, and I'm kind of excited about that, but we're going to go a little bit larger because I couldn't do that in the pewter, and I like the bantam scale. Yes. And I'm hoping that people still accept that as micro. I don't know.
We'll see, right?
But, but you know, that way I can give you something at that price point, but still, you know, it's sturdy enough that hopefully it won't break, because I mean, I want to keep sculpting my horses to horse scale. I don't want to be thickening the legs and modifying my sculpture to make it, you know, work for something, you know, so tiny it's the size of a pea. I'm not doing that.
It gets small enough to a point.
And I mean, honestly, like I lose these things. I broke a micro the other day and I lost like part of his leg, and I thought, oh, I can find it. I can't find it.
They just disappear into the carpet.
You know, I mean, I have dog hairs that are larger than the size of this. I like look around and I could give up. I tried for a while.
What's one thing you'd like to see more of in the hobby?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I went around. I'm like, well, It's not really a negative question. So I told you I'm like loving seeing everybody's like idea and expression and creativity and all that. One thing I kind of get nostalgic for and miss and would love to see is like a consolidated site that we all turn to. Like Model Horse Sales Pages is still there, and that's cool. I'm really, really happy. Like I don't follow it as much as I should, and I tend to miss a lot of new artist resin releases.
Yeah,
And so like when I was like constantly on Blab, I actually used to be a moderator on Blab in the beginners forum for a while. But when I used to always see the artist announcements, you know, like, and now we don't have like a consolidated spot for artist announcements.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you follow everyone's page, you see like every day, like I'm painting this, I painted a hoof, you know, and all that. But I mean, I'm like those main announcement level. I miss when artists used to like kind of almost put together a press release and have like a big thing, and you could see the newest that they did.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, because like you, I feel like I miss so much, because if you're not following them, then you just miss it until everybody all of a sudden starts getting them and you're like, wait, who released that? Right. Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
That would
be
really cool to see.
It is kind of, it kind of inhibits us. Like it used to be, and I don't know if it's still this way for everyone, but it used to be that like an artist would announce something and 200 would be gone in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that way anymore. Usually artists are doing smaller batches. There's a few circumstances like that where I've seen that. But for the most part, you know, the artist announcement thing, you know, it's like you say, people like see it. And I hate to do it like that way. Like there used to be a reason we limited to 200, and it was because of Vera rights. I don't know if people still talk about that, but that's the visual artist something, whatever, VARA. And you'll see that on a lot of our pages. And there's a cutoff that says that copyrights can't be imposed on items that are mass produced for derivative works. And it's a little thing that, so all of us used to kind of, you know, just keep our artist resins for the most part, the main initial releases under 200 castings, and then we would go over with our own derivative works. But there was actually a legitimate reason why we would kind of limit them to 200. And I tell people all the time, I'm not in the business of not selling. So like if 500 people wanted to buy, I would love for 500 people to buy. You know. And I kind of, you know, at this point, it's like, if you leave an edition open, you have that dilemma, you know, is it gonna, you know, like kind of not get noticed at first, or people are gonna think, oh, it wasn't a really big seller at first. I see some people like that. And then like Hazel, I had Hazel open for 2 years or a year and a half or something for a really long time. Like the day I closed it, all of a sudden everybody wanted one. Now it's like,
of course.
12 years later, people are still like, do you have one? I'm like, no.
Yeah, they're so popular.
Yeah. Like, you know, but I think I only sold like 165 of those at first over 2 years. Wow. You know, a year and a half. I mean, it took a while.
It was a slow burn, yeah.
It was a slow burn, yeah. She was a sleeper, that's what I say.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize that she was that way because she's so popular now. Like, I just always assumed that she was that way.
No, she wasn't at first. Everyone was like, oh, she has no muscles. Oh, she's boring. I'm like, okay.
She's beautiful.
I had fun. I still thank you. Like, I had fun making her, I know.
Yeah.
She looked like my friend's mare. You know, and I was kind of sad. I'll give you like a little teaser. I was really sad that my pewter mold for micro hazel, which I had micro hazel made when I had mini hazel made. So I had mini hazel made in 2015 by Shapeways. And when I had that done, I got a micro version printed two of them. And then at that time, the only way that micros were being made was by resin casting. So I asked Maggie to cast, and she gave me like 10 little castings. And I like literally took them out and like they fell apart in my hands. Like
Oh.
the legs snapped off, the tail snapped off, and I'm like, I can't even clean these. I can't sell these. I can't even handle them. And because I'm just clumsy, I stepped on one. It was terrible.
Oh no.
I think I still have it. Hold on. There's tragedy over here. Like, look at this poor little micro hazel. This is one of the first ones. Do you see that? All the legs are missing. The tail's missing. The ears are probably missing.
Poor girl.
So then I, when Pewter came along, I was like, ooh, can I finally get this done? Something strong enough her legs won't snap off. And I was really excited about that. That definitely made me happy. Like I was selling in like lots of 50 as I got them. And then he was like, well, the mold's pretty toasted, and I just didn't know if I could make another mold. Well, pretty much like, so I was like, okay, everybody, I guess this is going to be the end. That only, I only sold like 150 or 200 or something like that. And like, as soon as I said that, everybody's like, ah! And I'm like, oh gosh, I had no idea that she's still that popular. She was such a sleeper.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she's super popular.
I'm really happy about that. So I'm gonna see if there's like a solution to that. Yeah, I hate to keep like reinventing the same horse over and over again. I hate to be that person, but she's one that was very popular. So
yeah, I think that'd be worth it. Yeah, people would like that.
Yeah, so we'll see. And again, I'll have to explore a slightly different scale. So see.
Right. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Overall, what does the hobby mean to you?
I don't know. To me, the hobby is like about bringing horses to people who aren't in a position at the time to necessarily enjoy horses, or they just love horses so much that they want realistic horse art. And I kind of love that idea. So I feel like the showing kind of lets us have that outlet of showing horses without the expense, and it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really great, and it has this whole aspect of people who know so much about horses and just have this huge love for them, and it's really great to be able to bring that to them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Inspire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your future goals in the hobby? What's next for you?
Well, I think I said long term, eventually I'll turn to digital sculpting. Probably like it'll be a couple more years at least. I kind of want to get down some media a little bit faster. Immediate short term, I know what I'm doing this year for like the rest of the year already. And I think what you guys will see from me for the rest of the year is a lot of rehashing of like some old things that are like scanned and coming out. I have another one of my molds that hasn't been scanned yet, that I hope to bring out in the mini and the micro very soon.
Yeah.
If COVID hadn't happened, it would have been sooner.
I know.
Because the company is like closed that it's coming from. So there's like, I have like pictures of the scans and stuff, and I'm like,
soon.
Oh, just finish it.
Soon, right? So hopefully like once this all settles down, you'll have them like release. Are they that close?
It could be like literally, like the company could reopen and I could get an email and I could get a horse, and I could be like releasing it in a couple weeks. Realistically, it's not going to happen that way, but that's how amazing it can be sometimes with this digital stuff. So that's a lot of fun. That makes me really happy, and I'm excited. And honestly, I want to do a lot of the micros now, because I'm I'm almost 50, and it's hard for me to see. I have to wear glasses now.
I'm also. Yep.
And Yeah, and magnifiers. I have magnifiers hanging up over here. I mean, I just yeah, I can't even look at these micros without bright light magnifiers and what have you. So I don't want to wait another 5-10 years and like meter it out slowly.
Right. Yeah.
So you're gonna see a lot of those from me this year.
Exciting.
And yeah, I'm excited and I'm enjoying these other works. And plus I'm also trying to work more on these workshops. So I'm
Yes.
doing sculpting anatomy video workshops, and I'm taking this time while I have the horse combination that I have out in my pasture to refine some teaching materials that I've been doing for the last decade for different companies and different workshop clinics and organizations.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying those. If anybody hasn't seen them, I'll link them below. They've been really helpful for me, I know. Yeah, so I guess just wrapping up, I know we kind of talked about some of the things you have up and coming, but I would just kind of want to leave the end of this to be kind of your space if you want to plug anything, any like social medias, websites, like things for people to kind of check out further for you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I should definitely plug my mailing list because that is where I announce things first. And I usually try it there and then work out any details. Like sometimes somebody will be like, oh, you got this number wrong. It's different in 2 different spots or something. So I usually release things there and then, and like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot more of these micros. I don't know if I'm going to limit them. I might not limit them with this particular, the printed media. I don't have to worry about making a mold. Yeah. And that's a big deal because when you make a mold, you have to like, okay, am I going to be able to sell 150, 300 from that mold? It's not necessarily worth it if I'm only going to sell 25. So with this, if I sell 25, I sold only 25, but so I might be announcing a lot of my previous scanned horses here. I don't know about Deputed Duke, but I haven't done a Micro Bosco. I haven't done the Micro Upton printed yet. So yeah.
Can't wait.
Let me share that. I will share that. But if I do this guy, which I think I'm going to, I'm going to release him through my mailing list first.
Yes.
And I'm going to do a different wool. I try and do all of my horses in every size a different. I flip them or I give them a little bit new hair or something is a little bit different about them. So if I do this guy, I'm going to give him a different wool. And
okay, cool. Yeah.
So when people see it, they can like at a glance know what they're looking at. So
yeah, that'd be exciting. I'll definitely get him if you.
Thank you. And then workshops. I hope to be teaching workshops next year at my house with my horses. So I should plug those too.
Yeah, definitely. I'll leave links below. I'll have you send them to me and people can go and check them out, definitely.
Cool. Thank you so much, Emily. This is really fun.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Alright, that's the episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely go ahead and check out Morgan. I'll have all of her links in the description below if you haven't checked her out already. If you want to get a more behind the scenes look on the show, as well as follow me on my artistic endeavors, go ahead and follow me on my Instagram. It's Frost Studios Equine Art. Definitely make sure to tune in next week for episode 7 of Artist Unlocked featuring Harriet of Walnut Lane Studios. Harriet is a longtime friend of mine on Instagram. We've been following each other pretty much since the beginning, and so it was really great to sit down and talk to her. She's a super talented artist, and I can't wait for you guys to see her episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!